I'm blessed to have my adult children live nearby. So this is based on a family outing called Island Hike. Hampered by a tight hamstring, I fall so far behind my wife and children, they leave my sight, even though we're all in physical therapy. Too many hours of computer screens and not enough of this, scrambling over piles of rocks topped with crumbling lichens and bristled moss. Not wanting to crush the fragile plants, I can't find a place to sit. There's no shade anywhere and the cracked granite cuts into flesh. I notice the quiet. By quiet, I mean not a lot of human noise, just the deep thrum of an oil tanker in the strait and a constant tolling of a bell that marks a hidden reef. It's quiet enough that I hear calls of unseen seabirds echoing off the cliffs and an eagle's cry from a nearby snag. I even hear wings beating air as a flock of swallows weaves through a cloud of insects. And if I strain my ears and focus on the flat line of water stretched between the two blue masses of land to the west, I can hear the Pacific Ocean pouring off the edge of the world. And this one's just set right down the hill here. It's called Moss. My chest tightens on the Spokane Street stairs, second trip up, 200 steps into the workout. I stop, wait to see if the pressure abates, finger the bottle of nitroglycerin on my keychain, remove my hat so rain cools my head, an orange hat, a gift from my wife embroidered bebop, what my granddaughter calls me, orange, her favorite color. I studied the moss by my feet, so green after rain, sending out tendrils, spreading while weather's perfect for moss, covering up more and more concrete. I remove the gloves I've been using to grasp the cold metal railing because moss makes the stairs slick. Touch a finger to the artery in my throat. Feel a heartbeat that slowly swings from palpitation to steady pulse. Pressure easing, orange hat back on, then gloves. I reverse my steps and descend, scattering the crows scrabbling grubs in the strip of grass by the road. This is for my wife, Carlin. Composition in flight. Black turnstones queue atop the old growth log, half out of water and weathering on the beach. A circling eagle suddenly sweeps them seaward where they shapeshift into a massive tower, a murmuration like the one in your mother's photograph of Dunlan's taken on the Skagit Flats the year we were married. You say murmurations look like music written in the sky, crescendo after crescendo. You understand music, not birds, even with an ornithologist father, something that surprises people who don't know you well. After your mother needed more care than your father could give, he emptied their house and gave us a coffee table book of black and white photographs of starling murmurations that looked like swirls of dark smoke or Rorschach tests. If the swarm of turnstones is a test, it must show we belong together. Thousands of birds turn in tight coils, by each individual sensing its neighbors turning. In concert, we turn too, toward home. This year I decided to write some poems that had at least a glimmer of hope in them. I realized that even in the darkest times, people not only survive, but they find love. So I've been writing persona poems reflecting that. This poem is based very loosely on my grandmother, who reunited with her high school sweetheart when she was in her 80s. And like most of the poems in this set, there's alternating points of view. In this case, Walter, then Inga. 70th reunion, Brockton High class of 1917. Walter. We shared last names, so freshman year I was assigned the seat behind you. I knew you were the one for me. I envisioned 4 years of studying the way your neck curved and how those few delicate blonde hairs escaped your intricate braid. At 16, we began to date, but that was the year your nagging cough turned into consumption and your family moved away for better air. You wrote it first, but I was bad at writing back. Then when school ended, the Great War called. I don't know how I survived the trenches, the gas, no man's land, and the Spanish flu. I came home broken, though, why I never married. Time would heal my wounds, and church, where I made the friends who talked me into attending my 70th class reunion. I prayed you'd be there, but forgot to rehearse what to say if you came. You were spotlighted like a starlet in the middle of the dance floor, your silver hair the lodestone that drew me in. I don't remember asking you to dance, but I know my hand shook as I clasped your hand, and my heart raced as I cradled you with my arm. You had already buried 2 husbands, so we didn't wait long to give you back your maiden name. Your great-grandchildren giggle when they see us kissing in the kitchen, calling us lovebirds, and claiming we act more like teens than them. We tell them, shush, get used to it. Born in 1899, we plan to span the century. Inga, my body has mapped a long journey. My skin, weathered from years of sun and wind, is marked with dark spots, each one a place I've been. The blue veins on my legs divide and scatter into a million tiny tracks, my bones as brittle as the hackberry twigs I gathered to light my mother's stove. But my memories stay strong. I still can conjure up from each precious moment from high school, how I'd always catch my breath when you strode into a room, how your muscles rippled when you moved, how your arm cradled me as we waltzed. My breath catches now, seeing you wend toward me through the crowd, even though it's been 72 years since I saw you last, and at 88, you keep your steps small. You stand before me speechless, but reach out, take my hand, and lead me to the dance floor. As I gaze into the eyes I've dreamed of seeing again, I know after years of wandering, I found my way home. This next poem was actually published in One Art this morning. So, my youngest brother died recently, and this is called At the Edge of the Ocean. 3 days after my heart tissue inflamed, my brother died. The phone call came on a cloudless day. I remember because I hate beautiful weather on days I'm sick. I thought my sister was calling to check on my health, as my brother had done 2 nights before. Then, like most times my brother and I talked when one of us was sick, we joked about who'd die first. That day, for the first time, we talked about our near-death experiences, my car accident, his coronary that made the news because one of his students performed the CPR that kept him alive, the calmness we felt at the end, how we pictured the people that mattered most, the letting go, the gift of time only near death can give. Today, I began a poem about the weather, how the steady drizzle reflected my mood. I was going to ask if weather should reflect our mood or change it. Weather carries extra weight along the shore. I live on Puget Sound. My brother lived on an island in Maine. We shared views of water but different oceans. Right now, despite the rain, there's a touch of pale blue in the water's surface. Dull gray clouds hang overhead like drab sheets in need of bleach and sunshine. Slate-colored waves roll up the graveled shore one after the other. The hiss of their retreat back into the sea sounding just like the ventilator the hospital used to keep my brother alive until his children arrived to say their goodbyes. And this is the last poem for today. My granddaughter Sylvie is also a West Seattle resident, was born the very first week of the pandemic. So this is for her, and thanks everybody for listening today. This is called On the Day You Were Born for Sylvie, 3/19/2020. I would like to say that whales cavorted in the sea outside our window, that vast flocks of birds filled the sky, and that the sunrise was the most glorious ever. For me, perhaps it was. Up before light with the news of your birth, I watched clouds tinge pink on the edges as the sun rose behind the ridge. To the south, beyond where the Vashon Island ferries crossed, mist hovered just above the water, veiling any thought of land. the mist glowed with the palest of colors. Thank you.
Very nice. Beautiful stuff.
I decided to go chronologically with poems I'm going to read, and I have no idea if Leopoldo's asking like why I write poetry. Really, a poem came to me on a chairlift one day skiing. It had the title and everything, and anyway, and ever since I've been writing poetry, and I had sort of the bad luck to get it published in a very reputable journal. So I felt like, well, this is it. You send it in and you're, like in Barrow Street. Anyway, that was not how the rest played out. But Her Imaginary Museum is about museums, both real and imaginary, and art that's real and imaginary too. Halls never built. No guards, no sound except floorboards under her feet. The viewer alone in the gallery, paintings aglow. Curators mounted track lighting to perfection. Every artist's palette richer here than ever on their own easels. Pigments more vivid even than in their inner visions. The viewer walks and walks as if hunting for Mona Lisa at the Louvre. But this museum has never met a Da Vinci or a Cassatt or an ancient Greek urn. This still labyrinth belongs only to the viewer. You know why. It happens to you too. You have roved halls never built. You have dug for treasures never buried. You have sung songs never composed. And despite the title of this one, it's not about Starry Night. It is Starry Nights. Begin with night sky above Sodium Lamp City. Ursa Major, Orion, Cassiopeia, Mars, Venus, Moon. You have seen what the artist saw. Between these, stars and planets of her own fabrication drip off her brush. She loves the edge of science that touches chance. And the tempera was never to be a chart for sailors. Infer what spaceships find. Sketch those horse heads and spider webs, those tufted and tentacled bodies. On watercolor paper, like fireworks, wet drops of gold and green radiate. A volcano in her imaginary galaxy erupts. Lava spews bloody rocks across a black expanse. Now you have seen what the artist dreamed. Now you dream. Now you see. Held Together with Tape and Glue has this title in part because most of these are collages, and they're collages of my own stuff. I was sort of sifting through and picking lines from here and there, and this one's called Commonplace Epiphanies. While you nap, the world as you know it pulses, not as a heart, but in the way of celestial bodies jingling according to private sheet music. It seems when you wake, a whole new sphere chimes around you. You recognize this home. It isn't a mirage or a prior century. No minstrel sings below your castle wall. You consider that the changes may be your own, something interior and of nearly invisible dimension. Or perhaps you and the earth mutated synchronously. None of your friends notice how altered you are since last reckoning. While sleeping, you lived in a forlorn kingdom of velvet and silver and lost jewels. A troubadour did serenade you, or was an owl asking if it were alone? Most of us doubt the individual's power to metamorphose, and yet this globe and you and I have been at least 7 mortals apiece since Monday noon. So this chapbook is an electronic chapbook. It's called Behind the Scenes at the Eternal Everyday, and I'm really glad it's electronic because it looks much better in color. And these are what the Indian publisher calls cut-ups, which here we might, if we're following my husband's way of speaking, called ransom note poems. But I made all of these using things that had come in, say, from junk mail, etc., that things piled on my desk, and it's a mishmash of stuff, but I didn't search very far for them. Here is your new bus, a home for experimental narrative. Fix it up, discover your bonds, spark your loop, adopt a world of its own. And that's kind of for my nephew Chauncey and his wife Sarah Jane, who did in fact fix up a bus to to make their home. Drops of water. Learning from the drops of water, your adventures become a solution. River as form. Cascades gift you family. Think of yourself through confluence. And this was another electronic chapbook for which I was glad of its also being electronic, because it is a conversation between me and a photographer in London. I saw his photographs first through an art history Facebook page that the two of us frequented. He worked at the Tate, and of course during the pandemic it closed. And he went out on the street, started taking photographs there rather than of objects in the museum. And so I found myself responding to his posts through poetry. And together we made this little book. So I'll be able to show you the first image that I'm going to read about today. And this one is in black and white. And he gave it the caption, "Life Goes On." In this rain-filled season, any resemblance between our black and white Thursdays and this persistent world is deliberate. The view, this means, of present and future reaches through some sharp and broken translucence. What secures these fragments? Every character, location, and event is purely accurate. This life is not a work of fiction. And this image, Robert accompanied with this line, which I also use as a title. When sunlight comes into your flat and you have a desire to capture the moment. Stand at the center of your studio to capture that sun on its path to your body, hot despite the crispness of this fall date. Go blind for a moment as you record a ghost dance, its bending of rays. Your father would today have been a year shy of 100. Hold him always. Hold in your heart his presence, sturdier than this phantasm of our closest star. So I'm very excited because I have a new book this year that's a full-length book. It's not a chapbook. Earth at Perihelion. And the first poem I'm going to read is about this home and a childhood home. Morse is walrus is home. When away, where reddening maples line the streets, the telling sounds of French voices mix with whiffs of baguettes. What tells of home? A dash of salt? Constant raucous bellows from a raft of sea lions lounging on tie-downs in Elliott Bay? Away, I walk Sherbrooke Street, play tourist, see old friends. At the museum shop, browsing books in French, I dip into the myth of Sedna. The pictures depict Sedna's fingers breaking off into fish, her sinking into the watery below, The text is easy, but I have forgotten this word and embarrassed must hunt it up on my phone. When a child, I stowed 2 words for everything. For reasons obscure, our teachers wanted us as fluent with the zoo as with terms for family, hues, clothing, food, and so I know when away was home, I wrote Morse, and underneath drew a fat and tusked torpedo. Walrus was Morse. As an adult who gets to choose, I might drop Sedna in favor of phrases for ordering cocktails never learned in school, yet linger over the fingerless, flippered girl discovering herself to be a water being, where Morse tells home. She darts between walruses, kelp, and whales, entièrement in her element, and I wonder how many digits I must lose. At the center of your eye is a black hole. The center of your eye and mine is an opening that looks like a perfect round, an aperture through to soul, to a surface crowded with sensors. We're sensitive, sensory beings. You see into me through my pupil. The day star cinches it for our safety. Too much staring blinds. At so many exact cores lie blank spots we mistake for emptiness. This is another local poem. Know the Duwamish waterway. And I look east from my place, not west as Rick does. Know the Duwamish waterway. Do you know the Duwamish only for its super funness or for the barges tugging sluggish up it to the Urbane Bay? For its manhandled, straightened stretch lined with rails and warehouses and stacked with shipping crates? Or for the steel cranes, equine herds of white and red, scraping and bowing over clanging trains that sound with terrible screams when we should all be dreaming? Then you do not know the Duwamish, which is all colors, which is sky-colored, which is a dusty gray today, but the water renders dust such that it shines a gift of double sun rays. The autochthonous Duwamish, where osprey hunt, where a paddler in its cold water sees the river's tireless industry, also its true silted banks, weedy and tidal, also its thin stands of alder, its mudflats happy with Canada geese, even a sleek, dark head popping through its surface, the resident comic, otter, there to remind us how her great-great-grandfather caught its stickleback or carp while swimming alongside a cedar craft of sacred pedigree. I think I'm gonna skip it and read one of my new ones instead, which Miriam has heard, but she's the only one who has. Intentionally, fatally, personally. And this is an erasure from To Sylvia's Weekly Muse. Intentionally, completely, consistently shape a meteor shower as an opportunity to surprise the forest. Truly, deeply, personally carry a pain as a devastating plague or the ocean in your frenetic mind. Widely, fatally, universally spark an olive grove as a reality of quiet guessing. And that's that. Thank you.
That's cool. So, was the question, how did you start writing poetry, or why did you, was that the question?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I started writing when I was in college, and some girlfriend dumped me, and my heart was broken, and I was, of course, at fault. So I started writing about that. But I think, this I'm putting together my collection, and I think what I've said is that it's a perfect testimony. Poetry is perfect testimony to the truism that someone once wisely noted, that there's absolutely no limit to the energy and ingenuity a man can apply to a project as long as it's not what he's supposed to be doing. So, so I asked a friend of mine to write a dust jacket, and came up with this. In this collection of shards possessing all the cohesion of a dropped jam jar, Alex Smith has once again stunned us. With his pointless grasping for attention, his printed page cries out to be dog-eared and yet remains languidly creased and ultimately unfolded in my hands. In his voice crying out not for redemption, but for more chocolate, he reminds us what it was like to be 9. I don't think I did. I mean, I see these. Thank you for asking. This is my, an alter ego, but yeah. So, I get people ask me, did you bring the harmonica? And so, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Did you bring it? Yes, I did. I brought it today, and here it is. Yes, I did. I don't care about you. Yeah. So yes, I did. I just saw that, we live right down by the harbor, and I saw the Seafair Pirates today. So we're coming up on Seafair season, and when I first moved here, I moved we bought a house in Wallingford, and I came up from California and had no idea about Seafair or any of this stuff. So this is called Blue Angel. It's the summer of 1990, and we moved to Seattle from LA the fall before. And I'm on my knees weeding the old broken concrete 2-track driveway that leads to the decrepit garage in back. Just passing a quiet, sparkly Thursday morning in reverie, uprooting the unfamiliar Pacific Northwest weeds on our new digs. I know nothing yet of Seafair Week, of air shows, Blue Angels, hot dog days, and hydroplane races on the lake. Many decades ago, civil engineers plotted these streets exactly true north and south, so my driveway runs a closely geographic west to east. I hear a faint rumble and look up to see a dark blue F-18 coming directly at me on a geographic west to east, screaming in, hot and low, muscular, venomous, takes me to another place in time where I am the prey. I'm calling this Hot Soup Coming Through, and it's after another summer event in Seattle. So I rearranged everything. Hot Soup Coming Through. Anybody been to the 4th of July celebration in Gasworks Park? They have a phenomenal 4th of July extravaganza. So, and they have a barge out there, and they shoot fireworks off and have music and all this. And so Hot Soup Coming Through. We had just finished watching the 4th of July fireworks show at the old Gasworks Park in Seattle. I want to say it was the year where they had it programmed on a microcomputer to seamlessly mesh the fireworks to the music for the first time. But they apparently screwed it up and ran the computer program backwards, so that the show started off with a frenetic ejaculatory finale true, then more or less trickled down to a whimper with everybody kind of looking at each other. And by the end, with raised eyebrows and a shrug, that's it then. But it turns out the show was over and the lights came on and 10,000 people moved in a subdued and sleepy mass out the exits and oozed down blocked off streets. My kids were in elementary school and middle school. It was late for them, but they still had the twinkle of fire in their eyes. The crowd was languid and rather slow-moving, like a pudding. Suddenly, behind us, a crisp young male voice barked out cheerfully, "Hot soup coming through!" Reflexively, the crowd parted like a liquid to let this 6-foot zephyr on rollerblades pass through as though he were a fish and they a stream. It worked perfectly. Hot soup, a magical inspiration that parted a sleepy crowd as he whisked by, grinning. I believe a companion followed him just as quick. And just like that, the two zephyrs slipped through the stream of sleepy people and disappeared. I shall never forget the look on the boys' faces, the oval O of their mouths, and the wide-eyed look of astonishment. You can do this? So one thing I found out about you people over the years here, and I mean all of you people who go to the harmonica, the poetry sessions, pardon me, is that y'all are suckers for a harmonica. So this is called Suckers for a Harmonica. This is not a poem. Witness this harmonica. This is not a song. Witness these spoken words. This is not a legal proceeding. Witness, despite the witnesses, suffer me, please me, with your Snickers. With your Snickers. With your Milky Way. With your Hubble. Your Kepler. These words, foil. An aluminum foil for my harmonica. What is the lesson? Shitty poetry, weak harmonica, outstanding combination. What is the lesson? Suffer me, please me, with the Snickers. With the Milky Way. Outstanding combination. It's a little haiku for you. It's sort of pseudo haiku. It's called Hope and Sadness. The hope inspired by one stray sock clinging to a fresh, clean shirt. The sadness of a child's glove lying wet on the sidewalk. Serious one. Orchard. Our family has this orchard which bears rich fruit, best in the world. An orchard needs to be pruned annually to keep it healthy and bearing fruit. The proper way to do this is for skilled men to carefully move from tree to tree, cutting dead wood, removing suckers, opening up the top of the tree to create light channels. Because sunlight stimulates the finest fruit. This is critical. Expert growers tell us it takes several seasons to restore even a neglected orchard to optimal health. This must be done patiently, thoughtfully, by people who know the trees. But strange men have barged into our orchard. They say we have let it grow unruly. They say they have a plan. I overheard things. Cutbacks must be drastic. Maybe trees shouldn't even be here.
I told our people not to let these men in because they do not know the trees. They marched in anyway with chainsaws, weirdly cutting down every other tree, hacking out the sides of others. It takes to bear fruit again 9 or 10 years to regrow such trees from scratch. What do we do now? It is still our orchard. It is still our goddamn orchard. Saturn's moons. I read this week that Saturn now has 128 additional moons for a total of 274 known moons. Okay, that's too many. Mighty Jupiter is second with 95 this week. Still too many. Why do we only get one moon? Wouldn't it be marvelous for us to have about 8 moons? All different colors, of course, and sizes and orbits and appearances and disappearances. Would this distract us from our nonsense, from our stupid plunder of our earth and each other? I wonder. So I wish we had 8 moons, but we only have the one, our lonely beauty, with her birthmark always facing us on her curious mystical path, pulling our oceans to and fro, backing away, they say, ever so slowly. This is a birthday present that I made for my youngest son, who just turned 33. I try to give him things and he won't take them, but I do the old dad thing of like, well, I didn't get you anything, but I'll give you, you go out and get something and I'll buy it. Well, it doesn't work. So I decided to spend some time. I've been telling this story for a long time. So it's true. It's all true. My boy, the mimic, he was 14. His height had shot up so fast that his eyes looked straight across the gap between us. His voice had lowered to a point where it sounded eerily like my own. Yet here he was doing some stupid 14-year-old boy thing. Redundant, I know. Who remembers what now? A sandwich left open on the counter with some unacceptable ingredient removed, or a glass perched perilously close to the edge of the standing butcher block in the center of the kitchen, or both. He's like a boat at this point, preparing to leave the dock as each new mooring line is unleashed from its cleat or bollard. The new ship getting ready to sail. Its crew tired now of the home port, bored of the predictability, both of us knowing exactly what would come next. What dad speak was queued up, and all I remember now is me breathing in to speak, but my exact words coming out of his mouth ahead of mine in a voice sounding remarkably like mine, but coming 2 seconds ahead. He knew everything. Why did I even bother? I stood frozen as if struck by a stun gun. I held up my finger in mock outrage and barked out, "That was the only thing that you could have done to get yourself out of the excoriating that you richly deserve at this very moment. How did you come up with that, my boy?" He grinned and laconically said, "I don't know. I didn't want to hear it from you, so I just said it myself." So many unspoken things were thus uttered at as the mooring line slipped gently off the bollard, but not the least of which was the trust that his offering was safe. And to this day, this remains one of those singular moments in me that rise above the others. He, of course, does not remember it. Yet I know it is buried in there somewhere and may emerge someday if and when he himself has a 14-year-old to contend with. This is about writing. It's about poets. It's called Owls. I saw this piece it was on a tile downtown. It said by Sherman Alexie, quote, "The world, even the smallest parts of it, is filled with things you don't know." Poets watch the world like owls. The sound of the cricket, the blue light of dawn, the laughter from chickadees. Adjusts the grip of his talons on the branch, feels the sound of the wind as it sways, feels the tree spread-eagled on the surface of the slow-turning planet, feels the turning, hears the cries of crows doing their business, listens, watches, writes, listens, writes. People think this is a pretty harmless thing. It's just a, it's not. It's an instrument of distraction. There is harm in harmonica. It'll jack you up. It'll drag you down. It'll lay you out. It'll make you ache. It'll make you smile and weep and frown. There's harm in harmonica. Oh yeah. A yearning and a burning and a harm in harmonica. And a police car. The European. And traffic too. And a train. There's animals. And a cat. And a wolf. And a little birdie too. There's a pirate. Harmonica. Oh. And even a scandal in harmonica. It'll jack you up. It'll lay you out. There's a harm in harmonica. This is fun. This is absolutely not a true story. This was inspired by in a writing class, and it was a start line. And have you ever done a start line poetry group with this particular one? They put 6 words on a strip of paper and you put them in a jar, and then somebody would pick it out, and then everybody would write. And the prompt was, I figured it was okay. So I figured it was okay. I figured it was okay to leave my pet raccoon Willie in the back seat of my car. He was asleep and could be quite cranky when you woke him, but I was only going to be gone for a minute to get a pack of smokes, and frankly, he did not do well in convenience stores. He did very well, actually, as he was quite adept with packaging and could unpack an entire kiosk in about 3 minutes. So it could get very expensive and very embarrassing. As it turned out, my 2-minute task turned complicated and quite dark. The convenience store was in the middle of being robbed by 2 guys who had guns and made us all lie on our faces and not look at them. So I did as I was told and stayed motionless, trying my best to imitate a rug. Nevertheless, one of the robber guys kicked me as he growled, "Which car is yours?" "The blue Merc," I blurted out. "Give me your keys, shit for brains," he demanded. Thinking of Willie, I hesitated. No but, he barked as he pointed the gun to my head. I handed him my keys and they dashed out to the car. As they sped away, I saw Willie's little masked face pop up in the back window. Police came minutes later, and after assessing the situation and getting a description of my car, decided to chase after them. "Come with us. You can identify the car and maybe help with the raccoon." Did I say it was 1954? They did things like that back then. We saw the Mercury pulled over in a ditch. Willie had made short work of them boys. They were out of the car, staggering around, shirts torn, nursing gashes in their faces and shoulders. Have you ever seen a mad raccoon? He was standing there holding pieces of plaid shirt in one hand and hair in the other, with a clearly pissed off look aimed squarely at me, like, What the fuck? I did have an altercation with a raccoon once. He didn't say anything, but he did do this. I chased one off my property in Wallingford, or it was in Leshai. He ran across the street and he looked back at me like, what? They're funny little guys. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.